Hello ladies and gentlemen, and we are just about to begin. Champion Select is underway for the Challenger Series EU West number 2. I am joined by Metas today and I am Spuddington. We have actually started to get some bans out. Just thus far got Zed, though we will be delaying just a second to choose that out. Nitrix obviously is the team captain there, having that ban choice, not going to matter too much. So Zed and Thresh are the first bans.
Hey Spud, yeah, I mean Thresh is a fairly standard ban as far as bans go, revered by a lot of the top players as being slightly OP, I guess you could say. He's definitely strong, so makes complete sense if you eliminate him from the champion pool. And Zed goes without saying, he's incredibly strong at just nuking single targets, getting the squishy carries out of the way, so pretty standard bans.
Yeah, it's nothing too untoward, and I think you can sort of say the same thing about the next two bans as well. Diana and Elise, not particularly unusual. Diana maybe a little bit more so than the other champions, but Elise is just such a versatile champion, is picked so often now, does so well in almost every role, and doesn't even really need to deal that much damage to do quite a lot of damage. Has a very good skill set. Very, very strong champion in general. That Diana ban, though, maybe a little less common, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was, at one point, Diana was banned so often because she was just incredibly strong, but could be a target ban. Not too sure about that one, but either way, I think I can see a Kha'Zix ban there too. I'm actually watching the stream, I'm not in the lobby at the moment. And Kha'Zix, again, similar to Zed, is very, very strong at just hopping in there and nuking down a carry. So they want to try and get rid of that. Maybe going to be running a couple of squishy, quite vulnerable champions here, AT. So only time will tell.
Yeah, it's very difficult to deal with characters like Zed, like Kha'Zix, in that mid lane, especially if you want to run a squishy AP mid who doesn't, you know, deal quite as well with someone just going all in, jumping on your face, doing tons of damage, and obviously then gets destroyed in that laning phase if you fall behind too early, and actually fits very well with that Twisted Fate pickup, which we have seen banned a heck of a lot recently, but yeah, first pick coming out there for AT.
Indeed, just huge global presence TF offers to each lane. You can't be completely sure. As soon as TF hits level 6 and Destiny comes out, no lane is safe. And that's reflected with the bans. Again, Zed and Kha'Zix typically can completely delete TF from team fights. And both are pretty good at roaming too. I mean, the Kha'Zix invisibility into the lane can just jump in and nuke someone down in a heartbeat. So again, makes a lot of sense why you ban those two champions out.
Yeah, and we are actually going to be seeing... I'm afraid, I don't know if we have any summoner spell cover up there, sorry. So they may have to just run with troll summoners until the last second. But yeah, we have actually now got Janna pickup coming out of Team British Tea Time. It's occurred to me, I haven't actually said the names of the teams here, but it is BTT or British Tea Time versus that Team AT. AT actually have got currently, I think, team in the maybe top 6, 7, 8 in Challenger division, certainly in ranked 5s, and they recently beat MYM 2-0, so they are actually a really, really strong team, even though I haven't heard too much about them in the past. I know you kind of have a bit of a relationship with Broto, though.
Yeah, I used to cast Call of Duty 4, which he was a pro gamer in, and AT Gaming are currently 6th in the Challenger Series and have 91 wins to 52 losses. They've beat teams like you said, like MYM, so they're an incredibly solid lineup and really interested to see how this one's going to pan out for them.
Yeah, British Tea Time I do actually know a little bit about myself because I saw some of their earlier games when they were at the I-Series in the UK, which I was casting at the time. At the time, though, they were not called British Tea Time. They were instead called Air, which was horrendous to actually cast. I mean, just absolutely, unbelievably annoying. But they have obviously changed that name now, so I can just, you know, get their name out in a team fight without strangling my own vocal cords. And yeah, they did actually come out, I think, 2nd there and doing a pretty good job overall. We will be running a caster rotation, by the way, today, so yeah, actually, Kaostv answering the question before I can even do it on the stream. It'll come out a little bit late now, but yeah, we are going to be running a caster rotation today. Broken Shard will be on later on if you are one of his personal fans. For now, though, it is me and Metas And now we have got that Varus and Renekton pickup.
So, interestingly enough, British Tea Time actually running the brothers, Nasus and Renekton. Nasus, a very, very common pick now, extremely popular jungler. What are your thoughts overall on the Nasus-Renekton combo? Because that's going to be a bit of a terror at top lane. You've got the Wither, plus the Slice and Dice. It's going to be quite scary.
Yeah, they both work really well together because you have that Nasus coming in with that Wither, as you mentioned. He also has that Armor Shred. Both of them have these massive AoE magic damage ults, which will just burn you down if you can't get away. Have a lot of CC on top of that, and obviously it just gets very, very dangerous very, very quickly. And obviously they work pretty well in a team fight too, filling in a very similar role, both of them being very tanky bruisers that run into the middle, doing a lot of AoE magic damage. I think Nessus does a bit more damage because it's percent based, but certainly both do a lot of that damage, and will obviously be very, very disruptive. Nasus in particular has the ability to just shut down anyone dependent on auto attacks if they get anywhere near him. Wither just absolutely mauls anyone who wants to auto attack.
Absolutely, and as I said earlier with, I think it was Broken Shard, Wither pretty much just puts a bullseye target on your back. It's like a heat-seeking missile just locking the AD carry, or locking the carry, the AP carry, sorry, down. It's very difficult to get away unless you have a cleanse, and that's going to be kind of reflected in the sense that I can't really see, but I think Ezreal's running a cleanse here, so that's kind of targeted against characters like Nasus here, who just simply wants nothing to do with.
I was not expecting that dog there, sorry. Yeah, it's actually pretty standard to run that cleanse on Ezreal. He is very, very defensive carry. He just tries to play very, very slippery. And he does have some slight issues maybe compared to other AD carries late game because he doesn't put out quite the same level of damage, doesn't tend to build the same way normally either. But, you know, does a pretty good job. But we are now seeing the full lineups on both teams. Twisted Fate, Nautilus, Ezreal, Zac, and Zyra versus Renekton, Nasus, Varus, Janna, and Ahri.
Very interesting lineups here. I mean, Nautilus you'd have to assume is going to be... Actually, that's interesting. Is Nautilus going to be jungler, or is Zac? Because I assume Zac has more capabilities at top lane, so I'm thinking Nautilus jungle, in which case he's not a jungler that I've actually seen too recently. He had a point in time where he was played ridiculous amounts, but with the new meta changes in Season 3, it seemed to me he kind of fell out of favour a tiny bit.
Yeah, Nautilus did actually get buffed relatively recently, though, and we have seen some top lane Zac in the LCS. Wicked was running him multiple times and did pretty well with it as well. So, yeah, it could just be they're looking for a kind of very mobile composition. They're having that Nautilus with that dredge line, having that Zac who could just jump around very, very quickly. Twisted Fate ultimate, you've got Ezreal, very quick to get around the map, basically here by AT. What they're up against is a little less speedy. I mean, they have still got that Ahri with teleport, which is going to be good. They have got that Janna movement speed on all of the team. But Nasus tends to be a bit slow. Varus obviously doesn't have any mobility at all built into his kit. And yeah, there you have the Renekton, who is situationally pretty mobile and not going to be able to put down quite the same level of straight up movement across the map. We are now into the delay timer, so I do believe we are likely to be going for a quick commercial break at this point. And I will see you later.
Like a bomb squad.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Kaostv's live coverage of the EU West Challenger Series number 2. And I am currently just waiting in the champion select alongside the lovely Spuddington, who I believe is having client issues. It just crashed for you, I think.
Yeah, did just decide to randomly crash the entire thing and then wouldn't reconnect either, so I had to relog. Should be back into the game pretty quickly though. I'm now on the loading screen. We have got both these teams should be well underway by this stage, so obviously no need to be too concerned about, summoner spells and all that sort of thing, which I sort of wasn't anyway, but I've never been a good person. 47 seconds in fact, already.
Yep, currently just looking at both teams lining up, neither really wanting to take the lead here. You've got a AT at the bottom bush looking to invade into the opposition's blue, and British Tea Time are actually on the flip side at the top lane. So could potentially see a double invade here, Spuddington, with both teams going for the opposition blue.
Yeah, although you have to wonder who's going to come out on top in that situation, because there are wards actually out from AT covering both the major jungle entrances. They were kind of expecting this invade, and in fact the same is true there of British Tea Time. They have covered their blue, and they have covered the little entrance towards their wraith there. So it looks like this double invade, if it happens, is just not going to really achieve too much. Both sides are likely to swap that blue buff, and crucially though, both sides will not be likely to take the wraiths, the wolves, sorry, for their jungler, which will actually slow down their jungle career and make it a little bit less easy for them to gank as early as they would like normally. Still, looks like both teams are just going to kind of go back to laning. Renekton is at bot though.
Yeah, so it looks like we could have a lane switch up here with the 1v2 lanes kind of going back and forward. So you are going to have Varus and Janna facing off against Zac at top, and that of course will leave Ezreal and Zyra going down to bot to face off against Renekton. Now, in your opinion, Spuddington, who comes out better here? Is it Renekton or Zac?
It's something I can't really answer because I've never seen Zac in that 1v2 situation. I'd imagine he'd be able to farm acceptably well with his stretching strike for a 1v2 situation. He has got a lot of health potions, and he has that inbuilt sustain as well from his blobs, which come out, although obviously taking damage for no reason isn't ideal. Whereas Renekton is always going to be melee. He's going to have some difficulty trying to deal with that pressure coming out from his auto attack, going for that farm. Elaine has pushed his tower a little bit earlier though, so Nitrix actually in a better situation. He does also have the ability to kind of threaten if he can get in range for that gank. But Zac can do the same. He can also set up ganks from a jungler.
Indeed, and also Renekton does have a fair amount of sustain in the sense that his Cult of Weak will heal him if he has the 50 Fury bonus, so it'd be quite interesting to see. We do have a lot of action in mid. Actually, Dukeman's being forced to flash away with a gank from Nasus coming in, dodging the charm. Had that landed, could have been curtains for him. So yeah, we do have a flash burn in mid from Twisted Fate.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really bad for that Twisted Fate because he's not a very safe character. Obviously, Twisted Fate has no innate escape. The only thing he's got is that stun card or that red card, depending on what he chooses. But neither of those are particularly reliable choices. And yeah, dangerous situation if that Nasus can get another ganking opportunity on him. JNT Taylor is walking right past a ward though, so it does look like he's actually just going to be heading out there to cover that bottom lane.
Both well, I guess you could say quote-unquote top laners are being fairly brutalized at this point. Top lane for AT Gaming, just 677 HP remaining, and at the bot for British Tea Time, you actually have Nasus coming in to help his brother out there, and they are actually going to be putting down a fair amount of pain on towards Nasus, on towards Nautilus, sorry, getting mixed up, but they do enough just to basically keep the tower up for a few more moments. Meanwhile, at top though, it's looking pretty dire for Zac. That tower is incredibly low.
Yeah, Varus and Janna are applying a lot of pressure, and they're applying it very, very quickly indeed. They have the kind of perfect poking damage to just make it almost impossible for that top laner to deal with them. And meanwhile, actually, we have got a flash down at bottom. Bro going very, very low. Did get withered. Not going to go down from it, but Nitrix might be able to get aggressive here. Not going to risk it. Obviously, that Zyra route is a little bit scary, but as I was saying, in that top lane, with that Varus-Janna combo, they just have a lot more burst as compared to that Ezreal and that Zyra. And obviously they have longer range to poke down the tower with on top of that.
Yeah, Varus actually has gone back to buy up here, so we could be seeing something happen. Visibility going down very, very low. He has to flash away and use the cleanse there, alongside the exhaust coming in from Zyra. Zacian, so a couple summon spells burnt, and Ezreal getting dangerously low. He has to go ahead and recall. In the meanwhile, the bot lane for British Tea Time is going to be going back towards bot, so we are going to have more of a standard play here now. And of course, you have to say the huge advantage going in the favour of British Tea Time. They still have their bot tower up.
Yeah, they have that bot tower up, and that's going to give them better control over Dragon. The interesting question, though, is whether they can take a huge advantage from that. We actually have Nautilus coming in on this mid lane here. He is just jogging on in. Cook My Stock gets rooted in place. He has flashed out, but he doesn't have his ultimate available. First blood there going to Nautilus. And yeah, just going to try and finish my point there. You can see Rarely is not pushing this lane very fast. He's not really wanting to shove it out. He's just happy to free farm for now, which leaves Renekton sort of at a loose end at the moment. He's just trying to look for something to do without putting himself in a really dangerous situation.
Indeed, so you can see him actually going into the jungle. He's like, okay, I'll just take Wraiths then in that case. Probably going to go up to double golems afterwards. Just waiting for that lane to push, as you said. Meanwhile, at bottom, you do have Zyra trying to recall. Going to be cancelled as Janna walks into the bush. And it's pretty much just back and forth here. Nautilus is looking for a gank, but he stood right on top of a ward, so the alarm bells will be ringing for British Tea Time.
I'm just mentioning, but TFL is up as well, but he didn't end up going for it. I'm a little bit surprised actually about that. He could have just jumped straight in behind them, didn't have that Eurostar ult yet, so it looks like he was a bit worried he was going to lose mid tower if he did go for that, but that was a potential double kill and tower take. Dupliance obviously not thinking it would go as well as that though, so it does look like they're just going to be applying some pressure in that mid lane. Cook My Sock doing a bit of auto attack damage to that tower, and JNT Taylor obviously following that up with a bit of his own. Shoot up going very low in that bot lane. Sorry, I did not notice that.
Yeah, he got caught by roots from Zyra and the plants, but was able to get himself away out of danger. Ezreal, in the meantime, is going to try and farm up. He is, well, I was about to ask how close he is to level 6. The answer, not very. So he's going to be trying to get some last hits here. Janna going a bit aggressive, slowing him down, trying to get some harassment, and they're going to be pushed to lane. And meanwhile, at top lane, you have Zac going very, very low from Renekton, who is going to try and jump in here, but decides to slice and dice away. And Nasus, in the meantime, managed to steal that blue buff.
Yeah, they're going to be happy with that result. Obviously, Renekton not upset at all. Going to be walking on out. Rarely has actually been pushed back to his tower again, though. This time he is looking to push it out a little bit more, and I'm going to have to keep a close eye on this bottom lane because they are both very, very low. Twisted Fate was threatening there. He moved towards that bottom lane, and you saw instantly Varus and Janna both just backed straight out of there, and Zyra going to be stopping Eurostar from recalling. Ari picking up their own blue buff now, so The double blue buff, super nice to have. And Nasus is he's a pretty good guy to have that blue buff on. Cooldown reduction, super nice stat.
Absolutely, and on top of that, you also have Ari now. Cook might suck taking her own blue buff, so it's going to be pretty nasty for TF for a little while. Doesn't have his own blue. He does, of course, have the blue card if he so chooses for that mana replenishment, but he is going to get harassed pretty damn hard from Ari. Meanwhile, Bro coming into mid on Nautilus once again. He's been very much gank-centric, as you'd expect from a Nautilus player, but instead, actually just going to go ahead and get some of the farm. Meanwhile, at bot lane, you do have the 1-to-1 on turret score coming about as Ezreal takes that one down handily. So, pretty even overall on the map. The only thing really against these two teams is that first blood. It's very, very close.
Yeah, very, very close indeed, although there is a little bit of a CS gap opening up here. We have got just a very slight advantage, actually, on that team, but we actually now have, double ultimate coming down from Nitrix. The Bros going for that dragon, and given that Vizility and Zycian are out of mana, it's not surprising to see they are going to be able to contest it. Did try for that steal with the Ezreal ultimate, did not end up working out for them, but still very nicely played indeed. Just that's kind of the power of Nasus, just that ability to take objectives incredibly quickly and super, super scary to have to deal with.
Yeah. Completely, you know, Dominus plus the Fury of the Sands from both Renekton and Nasus respectively is basically a free Drake. If you can get the pink ward down, clear the vision out, it's very, very simple to do. Renekton moved from top lane and now is going to be going back towards top lane. Ari was filling in the meantime. Nautilus has to be careful here. He's going to come head to head with Nitrix. Lots of damage going down. Twisted Fate ultimate comes down as well alongside the ultimate from Nautilus, but unfortunately for Twisted Fate, the flash came out and the slice and dice from Renekton, and he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, put some distance between them. It did obviously burn that Renekton flash, although we do obviously from that know that Chewed Up and Yerostar are safe to push in this bot lane. And right now it seems like they are the ones who are a little bit dominant in this lane. They do have that 89 CS to 72 on Ezreal, Bilgewater Cutlass as compared to simply a Vamp Scepter on Ezreal. And obviously the threat when TF is around in mid and has his ultimate available is much, much greater. They don't have the ability to just, you know, keep pushing that bottom lane indefinitely, because obviously if they do that, TF will ult in, they'll end up getting CC'd down and 3v2'd and destroyed. But if he obviously commits to that top lane, getting comparatively little for his ultimate, only really a flash, then there's much more potential for them to push, but they're not currently so far ahead that they can just afford to shove indefinitely and bully out that Ezreal and Zyra as of yet.
Yeah, definitely, and also the fact that the Depth Charge and the Destiny were burnt there gives British Teton free reign to think, okay, well, we're not actually in that much danger. Two huge initiates are gone from the locker of AT, so we can kind of farm a bit more, push a tiny bit more, and not worry quite as much. Of course, they're going to know that about 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes after those ultimates were used, they'll both be back up again. So it gives them a bit of free reign to go a bit more aggressive. Top lane has resumed. It's pretty much just a farming fest at this stage. Just the 1 kill after 12 minutes and 3 towers going down.
Yeah, not really much to be gained from that straight up team fight. Ari is now pushing down that bot. She does have teleport available though, so I expect she'll just keep shoving that out up until the point where an engagement happens. Teleport in if that happens. So the play there from AT is to try and bait out that teleport. They want to try and make an engagement happen, but then disengage it, or potentially just send someone down there to duel her. Twisted Fate, obviously his ultimate will be back up pretty shortly. It looks like he's just gonna, you know, turn on around there, and I don't know what the difference in the amount of time it takes a teleport summon a spell is as compared to Twisted Fate's ultimate, but certainly they won't be upset if they end up exchanging a teleport summon a spell for that Destiny. Will obviously have a much shorter cooldown, and yeah, as I say, I don't know what the difference is on the animation, but certainly Ari would have to teleport to a ward, whereas Twisted Fate could just appear out of nowhere.
Indeed, it's 3.5 seconds for teleport, and I would assume it's around the same for Destiny, so that's the reason why Ari, or one of the reasons why Ari picked up the teleport. Meanwhile in mid, you do have quite a lot of pressure coming from British Team on towards the mid tower. It's going to be going down extremely low, needs to be careful though. Destiny has been popped from Twisted Fate. Where's he going to be going? The answer is on towards Nasus, who has popped Fury of the Sands. Lots of damage coming down, True Shot Barrage and the Ignite as well. On towards Nasus, he will finally get taken out courtesy of Zac, who's now under all kinds of problems himself. Meanwhile at top lane, at the top up, I should say. Depth charge has been used onto Ari, who gets completely nuked down. Dominus has been pulled off from Renekton, but he's taking damage from 3 players. Goldgar comes out, and that should be another kill to AT. 4-0 up, and looking very, very strong.
Yeah, that was a really nice fight. British Tea Time just committed a little bit too hard. They really wanted to take down that mid tower, understandably so, but in so doing they committed a little bit too hard, took a little bit too much damage, and Twisted Fate realized, I can just engage here, they can't kill me, or if they choose to kill me, they're all gonna die in the process. And, you know, he set up that combat there, obviously just straight up destroying them in that fight. Nasus has come back in though now, so they aren't actually going to lose too many objectives from this. Rarely is pushing out that top lane, but I imagine Renekton will get there before he can take the tower. And in fact, I suspect Rarely on that level of health won't want to stick around too long. It's a little bit too risky for his taste. And it looks like they're just going to resume pushing this mid though. British Tea Time almost as if nothing had happened.
Yeah, because again, a lot of that kind of pressure from the depth charge Destiny combo, which is so strong, is out of the equation. There's no huge amounts of engage that can be pulled here, unless Nautilus does manage to land a dredge line, or Zyra does land grasping roots. So they're going to be recalling. Renekton is at the top once again. And even though it's 4-0, due to the fact that British Tea Time have a tower advantage over AT Gaming, still very, very close, just about 700 gold in it.
Yeah, it's odd in that fact, but it's probably just cancelled out by that dragon take and by the difference in towers. So global gold showing its strength. It is a little bit more distributed though. You do have, well actually the kills are all fairly distributed as well, but normally when you have that global gold advantage as compared to someone with a lot of kills, you have the danger that they will just get one person who gets fed out of control and just starts destroying your entire team. But as it happens, both sides have just got their gold fairly distributed out. You have still got that little CS gap there between that Varus and between that Ezreal. Bloodthirst to pick up on Ezreal. Not quite a finished Blade of the Ruined King on Varus. So I suspect that Ezreal is probably actually doing a bit more damage at this stage, on top of having, in spite of having less gold.
Absolutely. We don't actually have a charm landing from Ari on towards Nautilus. Not exactly the target you want. Barely scratched him, but Drake has came back up again. Pink Ward has been placed down. Of course, the last Drake went to British Tea Time. I'm going to try and rinse and repeat here. But this time around, you have AT Gaming pulling themselves in. Varus Ultimate has been popped down there. Somewhat of a waste. Not going to do anything huge. And this stalemate pretty much continues with just the Drake dance kicking off. Meanwhile, Nautilus is like, okay, screw this. You go for Drake. We'll just push mid tower down.
But that might actually be a bait. They were sort of circling around. The taunt nearly lands there on Zaichin. He is looking so scared right now, and it's just a poke match. But meanwhile, AT are pushing in that mid tower. If this goes ahead, it's just going to be a dragon for a tower with the potential for Broto to look for an engagement once this has happened. They haven't blown their ultimates here, so it is looking like it's going to be an engagement. We have got Cook Myself jumping out to the edge, has been exhausted. Zac just jumping around in the middle. We have got Zyra going down. Taunt goes down on Jupiter's at the top. Yerostar trying to keep himself alive, trying to keep Chewed Up in the fight. Has got some damage to put down, but he's not able to quite take down Rarely in time. And it looks like they've just come out behind again in that team fight.
Such a beautiful Stranglethorns from Zyra there, knocking 3 or 4 players up into the air. So even though they got Drake, they did lose 3 players and a mid tower. It looks very likely for their troubles. And again, as you said, look at the kills. Extremely evenly distributed here. 2 on 3 of them. So you've got Nautilus on 2, Ez on 2, and TF on 2. And Zac looking very, very strong with the Sunfire Cape. Going to be going back to spawn and building himself up the Sork shoes. So looking pretty tasty here from AT Gaming. But that is 2 Drakes to 0 now for British Tea Time.
Yeah, they're doing really well. The AT are doing really well though in these fights. They are just really crushing out the backline. You saw Ari actually getting kind of zoned out by that Zyra ultimate, getting zoned to the side and having to use exhaust, and it does look like they're just going to force down that mid tower. JMT Taylor tanking that up. He's not going to care. He's going to regen that up pretty quickly. But it's becoming apparent at the moment that AT have more mobility, and they also seem to have a better team fight at the moment. They are winning in those 5-on-5s, and they can get around the map to force the right 5v5s pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's interesting enough that Zyra actually died first in that last team fight. So only Zyra died for AT Gaming and was able to pop everything before doing so. Massive disruption with the Stranglethorns, etc. So maybe the focus isn't too great at the moment from British Tea Time. Gonna maybe need to just kind of focus tiny bit better if they want to start taking down players, because a couple of AT were incredibly low in that team fight, so with better focus could have been a victory there for them. Either way, top lane is going to get pushed out from Bro and Aurelie, so only about 1000 HP remaining and nobody is close. This should be pretty much a free tower.
Yeah, looks like they maybe were trying to look for an engagement in return. Going for that mid. Dupliance is actually going to lock that stun card in. We've got the flash chain and the corruption going down. Dupliance does manage to flash out himself though, and it looks like his team is going to take that top tower and then rotate towards this mid, which is a bit dangerous now because Chewed Up is low. Ahri is not available, does have that teleport, but there's no wards down for her to jump to. Broto coming in the side here. Stranglethorn's not gone down actually, sorry, that was the grasping route. Stranglethorn's now going down in the middle of everyone. Cook My Sock is just kind of sat there. He is actually kind of zoning out the backline here from AT, who are being forced back. Nitrix is in the middle of them. Yeristar knocking Broto around, and Chewed Up is just sitting on the edge, doing quite a lot of damage. Cook My Sock takes down Ezreal there, and this is a much less clean fight from AT. They have been split up quite badly. Nitrix going very low, Chewed Up now very low. Cook My Sock looking to put in that tiny bit of damage from the side, but it does look like one kill only after all of that action. We have actually got the flash from Cook My Sock. He's going to take out Zyra, but that passive is actually potentially going to do enough damage to take someone. Not going to be able to take out anyone there.
I think the problem there is that Nautilus went so hell for leather to zone Varus out of the fight that there was pretty much no tanky front line available therefore for Ezreal, who got took down incredibly fast in that team fight. Renekton was such a scary crocodile, just in the face of everybody, all up in their grill, and didn't actually die for his troubles. So that's pretty significant that Renekton was able to survive through that team fight with just a Spirit Visage. So potentially that could be a lot of confidence coming to British Tea Time, who are like, look guys, team fights, we could actually have this after all.
Yeah, if they get the right situation and the right time, they can certainly manage to win these team fights. And I'd say they've also probably got the better late game as well. If they can just drag out the game, they don't need to be looking really aggressive, but they do have to be careful if they play it too passively, because then they will becoming the Twisted Fate split push. But as I say, they do have the potential to just win this by dragging the game out if they can avoid losing too many objectives. Ahri doesn't have that teleport though, and Twisted Fate Ultimate will be coming up shortly, so they currently have a severe mobility disadvantage as compared to AT, who are though just going to be shoving in this mid lane, but only up against two, so they might be able to just do some poke down.
Indeed, Ahri is bot lane, but of course she is now going to start recalling. Needs to be careful, Bro is just hanging around the side, is going to be taking down the wolves. And this mid tower, this second tier mid tower, will stand tall and proud. Not much health has been taken off here, and I have to feel this is just going to be somewhat of a stalemate, because neither team can afford to kind of go all in, balls to the wall at this point. It's going to have to be something like an epic chain of corruption from Varus to kick this one on, you have to feel, and that's reflected in the sense that AT are just pulling themselves back. They're trying to choke out this mid lane. Yeah,
looks like he's actually going to be going for Nitrix, looking for that engage there. Going to be taking these wraiths. Not sure who's going to get this one. Oh, it was actually Broto who got that wraith. Super important there. But meanwhile, AT are actually potentially losing out if this stall continues, because that bottom lane is pushing hard, and so is that top. They will eventually kind of catch up. And yeah, AT backing out. They're going to clear that bottom lane out with that Broto, I suspect. Maybe not, no. He's just going to go clear wraiths. But it looks like they're going to send Ezreal ult there to clear out that bottom wave. Because otherwise, if they hadn't gone for that long distance clear, there was that danger they would lose the Baron, and it looks like British Tea Time have the timer on Dragon. I wonder if Twisted Fate will ulti though, because they could easily get caught out here.
Yeah, Drake has just came up and right on point, going down very, very fast. Destiny has been popped. Are we going to have an engage? Nice charm from Ahri, just staving off the problem, not allowing the smite to come in, but we are going to have a huge engage here. Depth charge on towards Ahri, plus the Strangling Thorns as well. Look at Zhang just bouncing around like a boss. He does not care, but Ahri is going to be jumping in here. Zyra's gone down, Ahri goes down as well. Twisted Fate's been nuked, and Visibility is going to be taken out of the equation. This is a huge team fight for British Tea Time right now, who are also going to take down Zach out of the passive, and just Bro survives, pulling himself back. A 4-for-1 exchange plus a Drake. That was simply massive for British Tea Time.
Yeah, I feel like at the moment AT are kind of feeling the pinch from the fact they don't have brilliant damage. They have a lot of tanky characters, and they have, you know, Zyra, who will eventually become, for support, probably the highest damage threat you can get. They have that Twisted Fate who's doing well, but Ezreal is only doing very average damage at best, and he's one of those characters that sacrifices damage for mobility. But if you compare that to Varus, who is immobile by comparison, but has so much more damage, it just means that when you get that tanky bruiser disrupting the backline, it's much easier for Varus to focus him out than for Ezreal. And it's proving quite difficult for Zac, who is diving into the backline but just doesn't have the damage himself to really do any serious threats to Varus. He does manage to push him around, but he didn't manage to kill him. He just can't solo kill Varus. I mean, he just does not have the damage unless it takes a very long time, by which point he'll probably be, you know, fended off by Janna or just straight up bursted by Ahri. So we are now actually looking like Twisted Fate is going to look for a split push.
I mean, as you say there, Varus does have the Blade of the Rune King, just picked up a BF Sword as well, and he has a very nice meat wall for him too. He has a Dominus up Renekton, Fury of the Sands Nasus, and it's kind of a heat-seeking missile, as I said before. You put Wither on somebody, Chain of Command on top of them, very, very hard to miss from Varus, and it's extremely difficult to actually burst him down. As soon as you get him low, he's just going to say, okay, cool, you've got Sunfire Cape, I'll use that to my advantage, pop Blade of the Rune King on you, and I'm fine again. Whereas Ezreal's going down incredibly fast without doing a lot of damage here, so you have to applaud Tudor for taking the Blade of the Rune King first, and the kind of pure distortion that his team is offering, and we haven't even mentioned Janna. With her Monsoon, can just push everybody away and reset the fight again.
Yeah, it's Janna who's playing defense, it's Janna who's doing the peeling for Tudor, and it's mostly Renekton and that Nasus who are... Well, Nasus is kind of opting for a middle ground, and Ahri is just helping Renekton. They're kind of skirting along the outside, looking to do that diving on the enemy AD carry. It's also interesting because Ahri is great at chasing down Ezreal. In terms of assassins, she is probably the most mobile in that teamfight situation, other than maybe Akali, and she is really, really good at chasing down. We've actually got Ahri going ulting on Visibility, going back for Bro though, and I'm not sure she's actually got the sustained damage, jumping over the wall though to get away from that Nautilus. And Zaician actually potentially getting put out as well. Not going to be able to get anything done here though. Yerostar wanting to back out, but no, actually going to go back in again, looking for Rarely, who is just going to walk on out.
It's almost like Cook Mysock could hear you talking about Ahri's maneuverability as she completely caught Ezreal with his pants down around his ankles. The charm landed, the insta-give came in on Ezreal, and he is back on the bench once again for the next 5 to 3 seconds. So, nice stuff there from Ahri, picking up the kill and allowing his team to just push mid down. Looks like we are going to have somewhat of a farming frenzy once again with Ezreal rejoining the fight. So, Spud, I have to ask you, we're about 26.5 minutes through this. Incredibly close game, 8-8, about 3.3k in it. Do you feel that AT can come back from this kind of deficit? Because the last couple team fights have not gone in their favour.
They always have the means to come back with this kind of a team comp. They always have that Twisted Fate who can just... He's so good at setting up one-man pickups, setting up two-man pickups. They've got Zac, who has a really good long-range and spammable initiate in that elastic slingshot. He can just catch someone out and follow that up with a CC, get that Destiny on top of it. And Nautilus is also great at picking off a couple of people here and there. The thing is, they don't want these 5-on-5 team fights anymore. They aren't winning them. It is not working out for them. They don't have the composition to straight up fight 5v5. And now that British Tea Time are in the driving seat, as it were, they are quite capable of just forcing those fights all the time. They can just go mid, they can go, you know, for Baron, they can force fights wherever they please. And you have now got that Oracles on Yerostar, and it looks like he's going to be clearing out that Baron area, just looking to get that map control. So the other thing is that if Dupliant has very little vision, it becomes a lot more difficult for him to play that split push control game, which he wants to play. He wants to avoid those 5v5 teamfights, but you can see he doesn't know where Ahri is. He knows that Ahri was in the area, but he doesn't know whether he can afford to push that lane or whether he'd be risking his life pointlessly. And instead he's forced to back out when he has passed by a ward. It does look like they might be going for this engagement here.
Yeah, they are starting to just lurk around the Baron here at 80, but there are a couple wards down. Oracle's on Bro actually hasn't walked through that bush yet, so there's still some vision, albeit very small, from British Tea Time. Now congregating around the mid, Ari's bot lane, but of course teleport is up and ready to use if she so chooses. And in the meantime, Zach is actually going to go top, so it looks like not just yet. We're not going to have that epic fight kicking off the next couple minutes, it would seem.
Yeah, Twisted Fate did actually blow his ultimate there. Was moving up the river towards that mid lane, and it looked like he might be trying to engage a 4v5, but thought better of it. Did pop his ult, but CookMySock is now actually potentially in a bit of a spot. He has charmed Duplians though, so he's just going to be able to walk on out.
Very, very nice. Had the gold card have landed there, Nautilus was breathing down Ari's neck. Has a depth charge, and the dredge line on top of it would have been curtains, you have to feel. Either way, Ari is going to escape. Hasn't recalled just yet, cancelled it, so potentially waiting for Twisted Fate. And I'm going to try and bushwhack him, but actually never mind that. Going to be going towards mid as the ward clearage continues. Drake is back up again, and surprise, surprise, who's on point? British Tea Time.
Yeah, they have had really, really good objective control this entire game, and that's really what was keeping them in it when they were losing those team fights in the early game, when they were having that problem with Twisted Fate being a bit difficult to pin down. As it is now, though, they are ahead, and obviously that dragon is just going to secure that lead. It looks like the Aerostar just going to move on out there towards that Baron, and they are going to clear it out. Although no one ever checks that brush, although apparently Aerostar does. So they have actually been seen though going for that Baron. Duplian pushing that bot lane in. Ari is potentially looking to get to that bottom tower to prevent it. Bro looking for some disruption. This Baron is going down very, very low. Can they get the steal off Nair? No, they can't. Nasus gets that kill. We've got the Stranglehold going in. They're looking for the disengage. Nitrix goes on Bro, and it looks like Rarely is disrupting the backline quite badly. CookMySock going to be flashing inwards towards that damage with his ultimate. Got that charm. Not actually landing. Deathfire goes on Vicinity. Can he get out of there? No, he can't. He can't go down. Sunfire K picks that up. Renekton getting that, but Twisted Fate is looking for this damage in that bottom lane. He has got some potential, but the teleport from CookMySock is going to force him out of there, and it looks like British Tea Time pulling further ahead.
Indeed, that was a Baron and 2 kills for a tower. Twisted Fate has to be so careful. CookMySock goes for the charm into the bush, has just spotted Duplicate, who pulls himself out a gold card and the Destiny too. So probably get a gold card to try and run away here. Actually going to stand toe to toe with Ari. Pops his Zoni's Hourglass, but the charm's going to come out, does land. That's going to be a very, very dead cowboy. And in the meantime, you are going to have the rest of his team actually pushing mid. So that was, again, a massive, massive victory for British Tea Time. Their objective control this game has been sensational. Every single Drake and the Baron on top of that looking very, very strong for them.
Yeah, they are now looking super good for this game because they have not only that Baron buff on all their members, they have not only that significant gold advantage, but they have also taken that middle tower, which means they have free reign to force a fight at any time. And AT, I don't think they can afford that 5v5. They will have to let that inhibitor go, and if they let that inhibitor go, that applies pressure all over the map. That means that all those other creeps will be a little bit stronger in the other lanes. They'll have the super creeps threatening their base, and it will just mean that with that Nasus and that Renekton being so tanky, they can just afford to take those outer towers, well, those inner towers actually, on the bottom and top lane from AT, and they in turn will then force the top and the bot lane inhib towers, which is just going to be really, really hard for them to stop. And unless they can get a really good initiation, AT don't have many tools to stop them.
And the scary thing at this point is, even if they do just land that perfect initiation, there is such an amount of massive HP and damage behind Varus and Ari. Ari can just jump around the team fight. She doesn't care too much for the Spirit Rush. Varus has his Chain of Corruption and the Blade of the Rune King, plus both of his summon spells available to him. So it's going to be very, very scary here. And you feel AT pretty much just have to turtle this one up for the next 5 or 10 minutes and try and get some items. Because right now there's a massive deficit of damage. They're simply not able to stand toe to toe with British Tea Time.
The problem from that perspective, though, is that it's only going to get worse. As the game goes on, the damage difference between the teams is only going to increase unless Ezreal goes for some kind of unusual, Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer build. but his kit just isn't really that suitable, and he is not going to do as much damage as Varus, even in a full build situation where he's built flat AD carry. And yeah, it looks like, as predicted, they are going to be going for that middle inhibitor here. Cooked by Sock there, actually nearly got grabbed. Duplians is taking that top tower. He will be able to take that, but I query whether he is risking a dive on that 4-man in the bottom inhib. Nitrix actually, they're getting locked down quite a lot. They are going for this engagement here. We have got the damage coming in. Cooked by Sock getting locked down quite a lot, rarely doing some disruption, but I don't know if they've got enough damage. They can't get rid of that Renekton, who is just running through the middle of their team. And now chewed up, Cooked by Sock taking down that Nautilus. Vigility getting towards it, actually may be able to take out Cooked by Sock here. Does manage to do so, but does die in the process. And it looks like that bottom inhib tower is going to go down, and that is a good result for British Tea Time, although Duplians is actually still pushing and might take a Nexus tower here. So it's going to look like a Nexus tower for an inhibitor, second inhibitor, but it looks like British Tea Time are just going to push down that Nexus themselves, and I don't think Zaiching can really stop them. Renekton doing a lot of damage to Duplians, going to be taking him out in that lane, and it looks like Duplians might actually get out with his ultimate, but I think it's probably not going to matter. Nexus towers are down, and no one is going to be up in time to stop this push.
So just a massive turnaround there. At one point you thought, okay, Twisted Fate can pick this one up, and then you have a look at his base and it's already gone down. So you have to question this, Bud. Was the split push from Twisted Fate worth it against a Baroned up, very fed lineup with the likes of a Nasus and Renekton on it? Not so sure. Didn't seem to pay off there at the end.
It certainly didn't pay off, but they were in a situation where they kind of had to make very high risk plays because they just didn't have any prospect for winning otherwise. If they had somehow managed to hold off that 4-on-5, maybe they could have made something happen from that split push as a result, but honestly, 5v5 wouldn't have been much better, I suspect, so I can see why he went for that play, even if it didn't work out in the end. But anyway, that was the first game of this best of 3, so we are going to be going into a quick commercial break now. We will be seeing you all in a little bit.